So the idea is that like I want to help people understand and understand how exactly beauty and all of these things work, and that way they can perfect their own beauty and their own style and make these choices.
हेलो दोस्तों, स्वागत है आप लोगों का एक बार फिर से रोजेंडर पर। और आज मैं आप लोगों के लिए लेकर आया हूं रोजेंडर टॉक्स पर एक बहुत ही खास मेहमान, सात समुंदर पार से निबा निर्मल, जो कि यूएस में रहती हैं और काफी हद तक प्लांट्स पर और काफी सारी चीजों पर रिसर्च करती हैं। उनसे मिलेंगे और काफी सारे सवाल पूछेंगे। चलो बात करते हैं इनसे और जानते हैं काफी सारी चीजें इनके चैनल के बारे में और इनकी रिसर्च के बारे में। So Niba, welcome to my channel and tell us something about yourself.
Thank you. I will try my best for the Hindi. Thank you so much for having me. I am a science content creator, or a multimedia science communicator. I am in San Francisco, California. I basically create like scientific content, kind of like articles, photos, videos, and social media. I do this for a number of organizations and universities like Stanford and Duke. I also work with research institutions like the Ecological Society of America and various science organizations like Science Sandbox, for example. I also have like a personal project, which is like at Notes by Niba, and that's where I look at the science that goes into beauty and fashion and skincare, kind of like looking at the chemistry of makeup and things like that. You can find me on YouTube and Instagram, and before this, I was studying plants for like 7 years. I studied the effects of climate change on crops, and I also studied the genetics of plant roots.
So there's a lot of things that you are doing, and tell us something about your plant research.
So I started out doing research when I was 17 in college at UC Davis. I researched there for 4 years. I was first looking at the effects of increased carbon dioxide on crop plants. Because plants do photosynthesis, you might think that they would love to have more carbon dioxide, but that's actually not the case. So I was studying kind of like how they respond to it and that sort of thing. And then my second project was looking at kind of the effects of drought and waterlogging on plants. So plants have like different ways to respond to these kinds of problems, and seeing if maybe if we can tell the crop plants to respond in a better way, then the plants will not like die if they don't have any water, for example. And then I just finished up my graduate work at Duke, like last week, actually. I was researching the genetics of plant roots, kind of like how a stem cell goes from being a stem cell all the way into a diversified, like special cell. That was a really exciting, cool project, and it was very just like super different pieces and very like new technology. I was doing a synthetic biology method, so it was pretty exciting to be kind of like at the forefront of that type of research. I also did a project looking at kind of the way that roots grow, and I think we'll talk a little bit about that in a bit.
So tell us something about your YouTube channel. It is about beauty, it is about science, it is about the chemistry of beauty. So all of things in just one channel, and the superposition of all these things is your videos. So kindly tell us about your channel.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really just about kind of the science that goes into beauty, and beauty can cover, you know, makeup and skincare and fashion and all of that. So when I look at like, for example, jade rollers, so that was a really popular beauty tool, and it's used to massage your face. I was curious, you know, these tools are being like really popular right now, and they're just like blowing up. Is there any point to it? Like, does the science actually support all of the advertising and that kind of thing? So the idea is that like I want to help people understand and understand how exactly beauty and all of these things work, and that way they can perfect their own beauty and their own style and make these choices. Right now I'm working on a video about like a makeup tool. It's like temporary tattoos. So that's like often used for people doing makeup to make it like kind of easy to do like these big designs. And so I'm talking about like the different ways you can understand them, and then in order to make them last longer on your skin. And so in order if they can understand the science, then they'll be able to like use it better is kind of the idea.
Okay, so why beauty? Why you have chosen beauty and science? Science, I can understand that you are in science, and this is your passion and you are pursuing science for a very long time, but there is a beauty in your YouTube channel. So kindly tell us the story of your YouTube channel, like how you started and why you chosen these topics for your videos.
Yeah, sure. I think I started because I wanted to talk about something that I just thought was cool and interesting and that other people would find cool and interesting. I had some experience with beauty just because I'm just really into it and I really like looking at different skincare, and I found myself, watching all these different skincare videos. But then the thing is, like, a lot of the people who make these videos are all white, and so there's a lot of things that like people of color have that like white people don't have to do, and then vice versa. So like, for example, genetically we are more disposed to like dark under eye circles, and so there's all these videos by people with white skin recommending all these different products for under eye circles, and like those things may not work for people of color, because if you're genetically going to have dark under eye circles, then no amount of cream is going to like solve the problem. At the end of the day, you need to like either just like, accept it, that's okay, or if you really don't like that look, then it's going to have to be like a makeup thing. But they never talk about this in like, people of, if they're like white people, because they don't talk about that part. And so I was like, well, if I can talk about things that are a little more interesting and an audience that's like, more like me and like looks like me, then hopefully that'll be kind of useful. I think I started out like not on YouTube. I started out like on Instagram. And on Instagram, I was talking just about like science and my science. And there are so many people doing that online on Instagram, and they're doing it amazingly. And after like, I think like 2-3 months of doing that, I was like kind of burnt out. And I was like, this isn't, I don't know, it just wasn't as fun for me. I was like, I want to do something that has more color, has more personality, and isn't just about like the science that I do in lab. Because I would like do science in lab, and then I would come home and talk about science online, and then I would like go wake up the next day and have to respond to all these science things. And like that is 100% fine, and I love doing it, but also like there's other things that I
You
enjoy
cannot
doing.
do science for every time. Like I can understand that. Even I do other stuff on other channels.
Exactly.
Even I have 2 channels for that. So
Yeah,
you
exactly.
cannot do science for every time. I can totally understand that. Okay. So
I decided to kind of like switch it and talk about something that I found interesting, but still have an element of science in there. So like still talk about like, how does this work? Or like, how can you make this last longer? Or like, why is it better to wear sunscreen and makeup rather than wearing makeup that has built-in sunscreen? Those are 2 different things. So things like that.
okay. Niba, one compliment for you. You look beautiful in those pictures that are there on your website. So those are just beautiful. And जनता जरा इनकी वेबसाइट चेक करना बिल्कुल ना भूलें. डिस्क्रिप्शन बॉक्स में लिंक दिया गया है, हमेशा तुम लोगों को पता ही रहता है. अब मैं हिंदी में तुम्हें इसलिए बोल रहा हूँ क्योंकि तुम्हें पता ही है.
But I understand it. I understand it though.
Okay, she can understand it, but वही है ना, जो इनका इंग्लिश का है अपना हिंदी का है. ठीक है, समझ रहे हो ना तुम लोग. भाई बहुत मुश्किल से इंटरव्यू लेकर आया हूँ, जरा लाइक और शेयर दबा के ठोक देना. Okay. So Niba, you have mentioned yourself as a content creator and science communicator on your website. So tell us something about the science communication that you do in the US, because in India, science communication is like, people just confuse it with journalism.
I mean, I think some science communication is journalism, right? Like there's a lot of people who can talk about like the new science and the new drugs and the new discoveries, and that's all an important part of science communication. But there's all these like kind of like different ways to talk about science, and those are all different. I have spoken to like a couple students in India who are all doing science communication, and I totally see like what you mean. I think in the US it's a little more like defined almost, which is kind of ironic because a lot of people in the US would say that it's not defined. But ultimately, I think like science communication is just the process of communicating scientific information. And so it doesn't matter if you're doing that via like YouTube or Instagram, or even if you're just like going, if you learn something in school and then you go home and you tell your parents, like that also counts as science communication. It's just any type of that. And so when you look at like kind of like the jobs and the careers in science communication, I think a lot of those jobs are what kind of make people understand like, oh, this is science communication, right? So like a lot of the jobs are in like science journalism, for example, like writing about the different discoveries, talking about what's going on. And but there's a lot of other like jobs too, right? So for me, for example, right now I'm freelancing and I'm doing a bunch of different jobs, various like social media and also articles and writing, etc. But there's also people who do, you know, work for different universities, work for different organizations. But I think as those positions become bigger and bigger, then it'll be more understood. But it's kind of like it's a job that doesn't have like a very specific description, and it's not the same for every single person, right? So like when you say doctor, everyone immediately understands like this is what they do, this is where they went to school, you know, your parents want you to be a doctor, etc. But like for science communication, there's so many different ways to do it, which means there's so many different jobs, which means that like when you say science communication, not everyone will understand what exactly that means. And, you know, my own mom, she doesn't even understand what I do, but she knows it's something in science and that makes her happy.
Science communication is like stand-up comedy in art.
You know, there's actually so much science comedy, like especially like because of the quarantine and because of COVID-19, so many comedians have started doing like science communication through comedy, and a lot of scientists who are already doing comedy are doing even more of that like on Zoom and stuff. I don't know if you've been to like a science comedy show. They're really good.